welcome back to another episode of Discovering My True North. This is episode 3, and today I'm joined by the very lovely Elise Pace. She is a colleague or ex-colleague of mine that we worked together a couple of stints ago in non-for-profit, and I'm really pleased to reconnect with her and find out all about what she's been doing. Hi, Elise, welcome.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. Now, this is a very interesting area, particularly for me, and today we're obviously talking about user experience design, an area of your expertise, and I guess for me, having been in service industries for most of my working life, it seems that many organisations are spending quite a lot of money and in order to gain insight into their users to solve problems and obviously to enhance their customers' experience when engaging them, and I guess just to understand their behaviour. So can you tell us about what you do and, the value, I guess, that a role of this kind brings to business?
Yes. So I guess user experience, whenever I think of it, and I guess just what I've been taught, through the years, I always relate it back to actually being the voice of the user. And so making sure that you are the advocate, and so you're there to make sure that whatever the user is experiencing, and maybe you're designing for say an app like Uber or something, and you're trying to make sure that people can actually get picked up on time, and you're creating that experience, but it's something pleasant. So it's not, maybe what they experienced with a taxi in the past. It's something new, but you're actually there to help the user and be the voice. So, and I definitely see it popping up a lot more now, just the UX jobs and roles that are out there compared to when I got started in, I think it's 2011. So I was living in New York and was working for a company there that actually ends up being bought out by Verizon in America. But working on different projects for, at the time, like for ESPN and Tiffany's, the jeweler in America. But actually creating these experiences, say for ESPN, for users to like log on and look at what they had lined up for watching for one day. So it's like it's very niche. You can get into something specific like that working at an agency, or you can work for another startup like I did when I was out in Colorado, and actually only build an app for a resort. And so I was working on just different areas there, and then now came to Australia and was working with Pearson, and then before that, the learning design role at our previous employer, and and then after Pearson, the education company, working for a fintech company now. So, and that's called myprosperity. But yeah, all different ranges. But UX can be used in so many different companies, and definitely having, I guess, the experience and background that I've seen, it was kind of like I was nervous at first, to kind of hop around and I thought, the safer bet would be maybe an agency, but I think it just depends, maybe on the person as well. Mm-hmm. If you want to have, say, agency bouncing around different projects, or if you want to be more like that in-house and working, say, for like a bigger company like Pearson, working just on education platforms or designing websites for them or applications, or, say, even working in, I said fintech before, but that's like financial technology. Mm-hmm. And so myprosperity is where I moved to 6 months, I guess now it's July, so 7 months ago. And it's just been really, really great to have so many different roles, but see how UX can be used in all these different companies. And it's definitely blossoming, and I don't see it, I guess, ending anytime soon. So
I was going to actually, that was one of my questions, which we'll get to later about the future. So we'll hold that thought. You said, you've worked across different organisations, and whether they be small or large, that perhaps you may be wearing, different hats. Can you tell us about some of the kinds of different roles maybe that that, or some of the roles that you've taken on, or maybe that you're doing now in a smaller organization,
Yes.
and how that looks.
Yeah, I will definitely say being in a smaller organization or a startup, like the first startup I was at was around, I guess, 10 people. And then now working at this startup, it's around 40 people. So I definitely, I love like working for myprosperity. But yeah, I mean, I'm wearing the hat of the UX person, like the only person there and the only designer there. So it's also involving with UI, so the user interface of all of the products. So that's designing for our app, our internal platform that actually works with like advisors and just other, also lawyers or any financial profession. And then the other side is the client side. And then that's, say, it's more of the business to business is what myprosperity is. But that internal platform then speaks to, say, the client side. And so you're also designing for clients. So that's just design, maybe worrying about UI, but it's also looking at the UX research. I've been doing that this past week. It was writing up questions. It was, conducting the research, going through all the videos, making notes to then use that research to solidify my design and back it up and make sure, okay, we should put a button here, or we should maybe add some extra text. And then speaking of text, it's also doing UX writing. So a lot of like micro copy, but that's also, I think it also depends on the person and, what maybe their strengths and weaknesses are. And I would say, I love doing UX writing. I really enjoy, words and language in general, but also I really enjoy the UX research side of things. And in conducting the research, we're also gathering it, making sure you're writing out the correct questions so they're not leading. But another side is also just project management in general that I'm helping you with, because at the moment we don't have a project manager, but it's as a team coming together and actually being able to understand like what's going on our Jira board. That's another platform that we use to, for me, just to like, it's kind of, you adapt to your surroundings and then how your company works as well. But you can also, influence within the company on how different things are getting done because people work differently. But those are just, I guess, a few of the roles right now that I'm doing. It's great having, I guess, kind of more control at, the startup. But at the same time, it can get hard when you are the only designer. So trying to like bounce ideas off of different people. I talked to, all my colleagues, but, sometimes you do miss that kind of design community. That's why I was like happy, just to, talk to you. And I have like online groups that I also, talk with, and I've met people through just different meetups in here in Melbourne. And so I've been able to make friends that way and just stay in touch with them to see like what they're doing. And I'll just send them something quickly, just saying like, oh, like, what do you think about this? Here are different layouts. And it's really great because, you can still get their feedback, but also get feedback from users who have never seen your platform. So, but I think that's just me as well. Like I really, really enjoy the research. So I always am asking why and why not this? And I would also say with some UXers, or at least some roles that I've seen, they'll ask for like a UX, UI, and developer person. And that's a unicorn. I do not, like, I can understand some code from HTML that I did 12 years ago, but it's more of the conversation with my developers that helps me the most, and just understanding what different programs they're actually using. But I can't code, so but for me it's more a UX and UI role for what I'm doing right now.
Okay, great. Obviously, for a great deal of time this would be a concept, and perhaps you wouldn't see a tangible product or service for some time. I know there's a workflow attached to this kind of work, and post-it notes. My feeling on post-it notes. Excited. So perhaps just from a simplistic view, as you can you give us the UX design process in a snapshot? And I mean, I guess that process could take, this long to this long, but just in terms of the key steps in that workflow, what are they?
So I would also say this sometimes depends on like the company that you're in. If they do have like, say, a set structure of like, a lean agile approach or
Sure.
stand-ups. Like for us, we have stand-up every day at 9:30 just to go through like what, maybe the developers are working on for the day, what I'm working on for the day, just so we have that and are able to, kind of know where everyone's at. But I'd say, a regular day is, say, maybe starting off with that and, process of understanding the user's flow. So when I first get started on a project, I'll, usually go to my stakeholders and ask them, what are we actually trying to design? Like, what are you trying to achieve? And from there, take that information back. Sometimes I do actually put that on Post-it notes, to remember like what they've said. But I always carry like a little book around. I actually have like this notebook is already full of Post-it notes, and like for me, it's just always like sketching out things, trying to understand like where, not just stakeholders are coming from, but the user as well. So after, say, talking to people at the company, understanding like what we're actually doing, I'll then take that, do some maybe quick sketches. That's why I also keep around just another notebook where, I put like little ghost modes and everything. And so just kind of doing those layouts. And then I'll, kind of collaborate with people at work, see, what they think of these sketches, and then also go and like interview our users. So talking to partners that we have, talking to clients that, maybe we already have, and then from there actually, sometimes design like a lighter mode. So just as a wireframe, doing that on Figma, and maybe testing that. Like if we have a longer time, I'll say maybe test that lighter wireframe first with users, and then come back, take that research, and decide from there to where to maybe put a button. Maybe this text that makes sense to the users initially, and then from that reiterate that design and keep reiterating, take it around to the company, talk to more users, and then build up that high fidelity prototype. And from that high fidelity prototype, which I usually do on Figma with work,
Can you explain just for people what Figma is?
Yeah, yes. So I used to use, we first used, say, at Pearson, and what I was taught when I went to General Assembly, I did kind of like a refresher course when I first moved to Australia. And through that course, they were already using like InVision and Sketch. And InVision, Sketch is first a program that you lay out your product, and then InVision is where you can put that product from Sketch into and build the prototype. And then you would put that into, say, Zeppelin, and Zeppelin is a program that can actually like read and create the code that developers will see from your prototype and from your designs, and you can actually create different interactions and understand how like these gestures actually should work. And but now using Figma at myprosperity, I love it because it combines all of those into one. And you're actually able to build that first screen, build that light wireframe or high fidelity wireframe, and then actually connect it all in a prototype. And then our developers can actually read all the code there as well, and you can actually click on a little button, and they can see the width and what the shading is supposed to be. I mean, because I would say like most people besides designers don't really maybe think of these the shades that you have on a button or the depth, but as a user you just need to use this product and get through and accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. And for us, that could be adding a little shade to a button that actually shows like this is what you should press. And it's those little things that like I really love, because it could be as simple as that, but to someone else, it just I don't know. Those are little things that I just really like, and that you tweak one thing and then the user understands. So after putting that all through Figma, I'll maybe take that high fidelity prototype and test it again with users, and then get that feedback, and hopefully have like that final product to launch, and then if it is say a website, if I could do A/B testing as well, have maybe one side a high fidelity, live product, and on the other side we're also testing that high fidelity live product, but on a separate server. So that would be great, because then you can actually compare, like these users can go through the A type, and then these users go through the B type, but they're actually struggling on this one little thing. So then that helps you to realize like where they're getting stuck.
Yeah.
And it's just helpful because you're not having to maybe go through, I guess, one, like say just A, like just product A, and just keep, I guess, like kind of looking at that. But just to getting all those different areas is great, because you're really building this product, and you're doing all the research that you can. You're designing as quickly as you can, usually, and that involves just sketches. But right now it's been a bit different, I would say, like with COVID times as well, because I find myself doing even more on Figma or on this Miro board. I'll also take that. I forgot about that step. But I kind of do it all throughout. You kind of has this blend, but you keep going in the circle because you keep reiterating that design.
Yeah.
But like say with my Miro board, I use it as kind of a brainstorming session, but I also put flows in there. So I'll start, at one point, and then I'll say, okay, the user needs to go from point A to point B. How are they going to get there? And actually, maybe lay out like the pain points they may face. I use that just because virtually it can be difficult now, because I love being in the office and having all of my designs up, and I'd print them off. And say if I got to the high fidelity area, and I'd print them off, put them up on the wall, and people would walk by and they'd stop because they thought, oh, well, what's this, or why is this? I was like, what do you think it is? Like, where do you want, and I just love having that collaborative experience, and actually getting people to maybe mark off, like, where do you think this should be, like, or grab a Post-it note and and have them like write a note and see what happens, and then from there, that's one of the things I actually miss about really being in the office, is that. But now, like, I'll just put it up on Miro, and then Skype or Zoom someone at work and see what they think, or send them just a prototype with Figma. You can actually just send them a link and then see how they go about doing it.
It's a real collaborative process, isn't it, with the software?
It really is. And that's so I mean, really, once it gets to that final product, and you're still always going to make updates, because even right now, we've created a feature at myprosperity, and you're always just going to keep reiterating so that the design gets better. You realize, oh, maybe someone was struggling here. Maybe this is doing really well, so why don't we adapt or put it in in another part of our platform, because it's so well here that we can update this other design. So I would say, like, for some people, I would probably think, I mean, just design in general, but UX as well, can be hard, because there's never really that set time that you're done, and because you just keep wanting to adapt and make it better. But that's another thing. I mean, that's why I love it. You're actually listening to the user constantly and making sure that this product works for them. So so that's, I guess a bit of our flow. There's a lot of bouncing back and forth, but I find that's the kind of circle that I always go in. Just it's always becoming more familiar with the product, and then following up after doing, for me, a lot of interviews, research, and then doing those designs and testing them out, seeing if they work.
I was going to ask you if UX is, or the space you're in, is stressful, but I guess, like anything else, when you're talking about something, as you said, that it's an infinite end sometimes, where time and budget constraints, like on any schedule, you can have all the processes in the world in place, but if people don't participate to support them, then sort of the goals of the project can be challenged. Do you think there's I guess from your perspective, that the software helps that collaboration process, but do you think that there's is there a way to successfully facilitate cross collaboration or cross-functional collaboration, should I say, because obviously developers have their own ideas, and perhaps you've got your own ideas, and so like any collaborative project, that is fraught with danger sometimes. So what sort of things do you do, I guess, to be able to keep that on track?
Yeah, I guess like a recent experience was, just talking to like one of our developers who, thought, okay, it needs to go A, B, C, and it seems as simple as that. But then, maybe I came back and said, oh, well, actually, if you get from point A to point B in this way, we need to add, another screen. And then they come back and say, oh, well, what about the security of, actually like having this website or an extra tab opened up, say from an email or something. And, that's something that I didn't think about, but I reflect on that and think, oh, okay, so then how can I design this in a way that would make sure the security is, we need that security factor, but we also want to create this experience for the user that is the best one. So we're still giving them options, we're giving them customization, and so from that, we did come to a conclusion that we can actually, design this extra page, have a link, say if you're clicking an unsubscribe link and you're going to that unsubscribe page. Sounds pretty boring, but that experience, what you have, say if you had to like log back in to actually then unsubscribe from that email, horrible experience. You also just kind of want to like give up at that point. So, which might be great for the company because then you're not unsubscribing from the email, but at the same time, you're feeling frustrated, with like that company. If you have to log back in, you can't remember your login.
Yeah.
And then you're just
been there.
Yeah. So it's just like, it's that little, like, that's the experience that you're trying to design. And so, from that, it's still creating the page that's, that is secure, but also making sure that, maybe users are able to check off like, okay, actually my preference is I'd rather not get this email, or I'd rather not get this push notification. And then, confirming that is a better experience than just having, say log back in and figure out, your passwords and everything if they're not saved. And so from that perspective, I guess collaborating, I'm always, talking to my developers on my team and coming to a conclusion that, oh, I thought I could design, maybe my first design was this outline of a star, like a rating system. And then they say, oh, actually, the mobile application that we have can use that and it works how I envisioned it to work. But on desktop, it looks different because they're actually using, another program, say like Ant Design or, something with React. But the mobile application has a different framework that they use. So, it's having to understand that, but then also make sure that we are speaking to each other, because you want to make sure everything is consistent and, it's as similar as it can be, because, mobile applications will be very different, are different from, desktop, what you see on the website. But, it's always making sure that, it is as similar for the user so that they're having that experience and they're not going to get lost on, a different action that they thought they can do on desktop and, and you can't do on mobile. But, so yeah, I'd say it's really about kind of understanding like where the different people on your team are coming from, and maybe that's why they thought this way. And I think it's just really about listening, and that's what UX is about as well. It's just making sure you listen to your users, but also making sure you listen to the people on their team, because they will have a valid point on why you can't actually do this. And because I am always questioning and saying, and asking why. And so it might get annoying, but I just say, this is the experience that I've designed and I know this is best for the user. So why can I not do, say this one button or something? And then they tell me why. And then sometimes it's, okay, that is valid. And, okay, we can't, but it's coming to that compromise as well, and just saying, okay, well, what if we do it this way and we can come back later and update it? And then that's usually kind of what we get to on our team, is making sure, okay, we've noted it. We say maybe like document that in Jira, knowing exactly, this could get done, this couldn't, but we plan to update it, another time. So I would say it's just for me personally, it's like, it's always about listening and compromise and understanding where the other person's coming from, because you're both trying to create this experience for the user, and you're both trying to do what's best, for the client, for that user, because you want this company, to succeed, and then, have users have a good experience with, say, myprosperity or Pearson or whoever you're working for. But it's all about just making sure you can get through that, on your team. So
it's called radical empathy, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yes, but empathy always, like, it amazes me sometimes, like, just people in other fields, and I would hope like the UX person, on anyone's team would always have empathy. Just like sometimes other, in other, I guess, job fields, if you're not listening to the user, if you're not understanding like where they're coming from, then they're going to have a bad experience. And that's not just one person, like other people have definitely had that experience. So then that's building up this base of, clients that, aren't having great experiences with your company. And that's not a good look. And it's just not, what you want. And I think even in today's world, like where the client or, users definitely have, much more of a voice, I'd say, now than before, just with technology and emerging technologies that we have. I would say, like, you need to listen to them. You need to have someone on your team, and even like the customer service area as well. We're taking that feedback and applying it to, any design that you have or any ideas that people, are talking about. Or I did that a lot. I forgot about that at Pearson, talking to the customer service team, understanding like where, what they heard from people, and that was always great, just to keep it, because like I'll do that a lot also with Post-its, just write those notes and say, this person had this idea, or they thought this is what they would do. And
I think too, in this day and age, feedback is so it's instant, and it's also, it can be brutal, and it could be damaging. So where once upon a time you might get feedback from people and go, okay, well, I can put this in place to rectify something. But now it's just like, if you're not on it and you're not doing something about it, and you're not listening to the people who are, your audience, then it's almost commercial suicide, because isn't it? Because you're it's also so public. Those comments could be so public that it's does something to your commercial reputation as well. So, and personal, I guess, too. So it's interesting. And also you talking about those kind of those elements, because sort of leads me into my next question to you, in that I guess design is really broad. And do you think you need, I'm thinking about my own career path here, and, to date, it's been very people and service oriented, and, hospitality, human resources, learning and development, where, you're engaging a customer, people and a learner or a user. So those empathy skills are really important in all of those cases. Do you think that these are transferable skills for a person like me that could bring these skills to this UX space?
Oh, yes. I mean, we had spoken about that earlier, but for sure, because just when knowing, even like in that General Assembly course that I had taken first in Melbourne back in 2017, for me, it was more of like this refresher course, because I had studied industrial design and marketing in America, and then, worked on different UX roles while I was there. But I was still in class with other people who were, working just in marketing, or, they're coming from graphic design, or, I remember one guy, he was more developer background, but he wanted to actually, move from that and understand, what he's actually creating. And I thought it was really great, because it was such a way to see how people from different fields are trying to, enter into UX, because it is such a growing area of design. And I think people and you know, coming from all these different backgrounds can definitely help, because even with like learning, you know, learning and development, you know, you're there, you know, speaking to people, trying to understand, you know, exactly, you know, maybe why you're designing this platform for them to, you know, learn CPR on, or I mean, that's probably a bad example, but just, you know, something in that sense, you know, you can take from, you know, you speaking with users, you understand, you know, how to, you know, address people, like even in hospitality, and you're understanding how to do, you know, so much at one time, because you take those skills and actually you know, understand, like, okay, project management, you need to remember that you have this research project going on. You need to remember to like do those results or compile those results, and then take that back, you know, to say the CEO and talk to them about, you know, where your designs are going out, and actually use that research to, you know, back up your design. But you know, you've learned that along the way as well. You know, you've learned that from hospitality, you learned it from learning development, and it's just, I think people can come from different backgrounds. It's just you need to highlight your background and what makes you good for that role, you know, for that user experience role. But you know, because I felt I did just kind of it more of as a refresher class when I came back to, or not came back, but when I first got to Australia. For me, it was also to create that community, or get into a community that I wasn't familiar with in Australia, and just so for me, it was also like to meet people. But through that is understanding that I, you know, found these meetups I could go to. And it's just understanding, like, there's all these different UX talks, there's design talks. There's so many free resources as well that you can, I mean, now those would be, you know, virtual online videos, but you can still, you know, talk to people who are in the industry, understand, you know, maybe you just need to take like a refresher course, maybe, you know, maybe it's just reading these certain books. But I think if you have the background and you highlight what areas of your background can actually help in the role, and maybe any study that you've done, or any online courses, you know, I know we spoke about like the IDEO course, because I had done one of those as well while I was in Colorado. I think it's just always about learning, and also keeping up to date, because, you know, I was doing like the UX writing course, so I already had a role at Pearson, and it was just, you know, making sure that my writing made sense for programs. So, and also for me, I have to remember to write in British English here, and you know, it still can trip me up, but it's just those little things that, okay, like I have learned this, I have it, you know, maybe on my resume, but also, you know, like on LinkedIn, it's building that connection as well, through a LinkedIn area, because they tell you at GA, but also I forget where else, but it was just about like, you know, broadening that reach, so that, you know, you reach out to people that maybe you haven't met, but it's building that network, and you can actually communicate with them and ask them, you know, oh, I'd love to, you know, have an interview, or just talk to you, or coffee. And I got a lot of those, I'd say, I sent out a lot as well, but just saying, oh, you know, I'd love to catch up, or like, how did you get into this field? And I think that's like really the first step as well. You know, if you're not sure, it's just get out there, even if it's a stranger. Like, you know, the worst thing they can say is no. And so that's why it's like, I think it's just all about, you know, like paying it forward, because, you know, I did the same thing. And so I'm always happy to help, because I'll give out like resources and lists.
Oh, and you've given me some of those resources. You've given me particularly the link to the the book. I actually went online and had a look at that as a online resource. It's available through my library, so cool. I'm going through it now, and it's gold. It's, you know, the kind of stuff that you want when you're sort of starting out. But certainly some of the online communities, you know, I think we were talking about last time, the UX Women, Design Australia, UX Design Australia. There's so many communities really, that if you're just starting out, and there's a lot of people on there that are, you know, like newbies like me, that, you know, asking similar kinds of questions. So it's really valuable to have that available to us. So but I guess whatever stage you are in your career, that you can tap into those networks to ask what you think are maybe silly questions, but you know, it's certainly not.
I just always think that you just need to get out there, like, and as well as, you know, if you have a break, and like I did, I mean, I was doing it in 2011, but I had studied industrial design, so it was more people may not, I usually get people think it's like designing like industrial systems, but
yeah,
it's product design. So it could be designing, say, like a Coke bottle, it could be designing a blender. I took a break, was just doing like photography, and then was getting back into it and working for that startup there. But then I did have another break where I was kind of doing more like design marketing, and so it was definitely heavier on the marketing sense and doing social media and different areas. But and then had a break traveling for 6 months, and then found my way to Australia, and that was why I ended up doing that other course, because I was just like, I kind of had this break, and I just
like a bridge to
yeah, it was definitely it was a good time, but I wasn't, I was doing consulting work, but I was able to do it from anywhere. So that was just like kind of helping people on their websites. So I think it's just always making sure you're up to date, and it's really with the programs, because that was why I was glad I took the course, because a lot had changed since I worked, besides just the marketing. So I was actually, I didn't know about InVision. Like, I'd heard of Sketch, but it was just making those connections, and then understanding, okay, I don't actually have to just use like Adobe Photoshop anymore, or Adobe Illustrator and InDesign. So, because now that Adobe has XD, for user experience design, they have a lot of tools there, and even just like you said, you're part of Skillshare. I had a lot of friends like do that as well. Design school, because one wanted to go from industrial design to illustrations, and now that's what he does. So and he did it. He has his own company now, like in North Carolina, and so he was able to bridge that and do more. He's definitely doing more like graphic design now. But it's great, because you can you have this like set way you think you need to act, or not act, but this linear process of you need to go to school and get this graduate degree, and then you need to just get your job and stay at that job for say 5 years, and then you move on to another role, but then you're still at that same role, and you're not really broadening out. But I think now you can go into different areas. You can understand that all these different experiences have actually created and molded you, and and work shouldn't be so stagnant. It should be that you're able to grow. And if you have an employer that also even helps you, like take these courses, and they realize that they want to invest this time and money into you, that's amazing, because you're then actually using those programs that you learn, or classes that you've taken while at work, but you're going to feed that back into the company, which in the end is it's great, because I think when a company does actually invest in their people and talent, then it helps them in the long run, and that's a good experience too. So
now, I think one last question I've got for you, and I probably know the answer to this given this flavor of conversation, but do you think that this space and your role as you know it will a lot's been talked about the future of work, and the kind of skills that we will need to survive the future of work? Will this role survive the future of work?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like, when I first was like looking over some of those questions, I thought, wow, it can be like really, really deep, but I definitely think that UX will always be there, because nothing can replace the actual human interaction. And human interaction design, human-centered design as well. These are massive areas. Like, a computer can't actually tell you how maybe this user is going to interact with the product. Like, sure, you have heat maps. You can look at where the user is going to look on screen, but to sit down with that person and understand exactly what they're doing, and understand that people may say what they're doing, but they're not actually doing it with their actions. And even going through like the test videos this week for my research, I was looking at, okay, this person said, oh, I'm going to go and add this task, and I'm going to do it from, say, a task tab. But the user actually clicked inside this other area, like a chat area, and still completed the task they were supposed to do, but they did it through a chat area.
Different way. Yeah.
And so it's understanding that, it's not like UX will be here, because you have to be able to realize that, people will say something but do something else, and that you need to take that those findings and actually, build the product and build something that is better for that user, for those people. But yeah, I don't think it'll disappear anytime soon, because it's also just people in general and human behavior. Like, I listen to like a lot of podcasts on human behavior as well. And one that comes to mind is like Hidden Brain, but understanding like the social and human behavior that people are very hard to change. They don't want to change, but you need to take their accounts into your designs and just understand like what they're doing and why they may be doing it, because it may be they've like created a workaround for something, but if you don't have, say, the UX person to actually realize, oh, they've like connected the dots on why this person is doing one thing, but they say it's like really hard process, or it's a hard flow for them to get to like, say, point A, point B. Oh, it's because they've actually like created this other workaround, and they didn't realize that something on screen would have made that easier because it wasn't working correctly. So then it's really all down to like microcopy, and it's just, I said that before, but it's those little like, they call them like aha moments, and that's where I don't think a computer could ever do what I could do, or even saying, just how people interact with computers. You're not going to have a user that maybe wants to just speak to like a robot. You're going to still have people that only want to talk in person, and that's fine. So you can still have, the designs that you've made up, but you also still have to understand that some users won't want to use the product because they're just not, maybe tech savvy. They just don't want to be around technology. So that's why I think like, you're always going to have like customer service and understanding, and same with, UX design and UI design. And I think especially being in tech as well, and fintech, we're always, our financial system, we got to have one of those for the economy. And same with technology. Like, it's we just have so much that's going on and so much to come, which does also make me like really excited. And when technology is used for good, I'd say that.
And I think too, it's good to know that there is still, the emphasis on the human element, because I think, as you said, the technology takeover is like, it's just going to keep evolving, and things are going to change quicker than we can blink. But knowing that we still do have that human element and human connection, and we are considered in what actually people want from the heart, or from what they need, is good to know. So and hopefully, this space is, certainly, as I said, it's been a area of interest for me. I think just because, as you've explained, it feels like it's a real connector between the two. We've got a high level of the technological space, and we've still got the human element, and I think that's really important. And for me, that's really exciting, because it gives you both for an exciting future. So we might leave it there. Thank you so much. This has really given me, I know, we've had a chat outside of today, but it's really just, kind of reiterated, given me some more insight. And, the more I talk to you, definitely, more questions, which is probably good considering the line of work.
I'm always
curiosity. So, I'm sure we'll talk more offline, but thank you so much for, being involved in this. It is a bit of a journey for me, and sort of going through trying to figure out, what's next. And, this is, again, as I said, certainly an area that I wanted to tap into a little bit more. So I'm sure we'll be having more conversations, but we'll talk soon. But thanks again, Elise, for today. And if there's any questions out of today, if you're happy to field them, there may be other people that are interested to know more. I might swing them your way. But I'm
happy to help. Like, definitely I guess just like work email, but I'm always happy to help. Just, it's always about making sure people know, like, I'm happy to talk about UX. So good. It's good.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. Thanks again.
Thanks.
Talk soon.
Bye. Talk soon.